But basically what had happened was, I was supposed to move in April. So they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we have 4 influencers that were looking to come live in this new high rise. Nobody is in there yet, still being built. And this was a year prior. And they're like, we would love for you to be the only female. And I was like, okay. Like, I thought it was a joke. Crazy. Like, the girl came to the gym I used to train out of, and I literally was like eating my food. I was like, so what are you here for? Like, I didn't, you know what I mean? I was taking it not serious. I got so many emails, I almost deleted it. Her name is Jenna, and she's amazing. And I will be forever grateful for her. But she had seen out of everybody in Nashville, she was like my whole love your body message, she resonated with. And so she was like, yes. So we ended up, I ended up getting the contract to sign it literally after like pandemic started. So it was like 2020 in April. And they were like, yeah, but you can't move in until it gets built. And I was the first person to end up living there. So I moved in July, a week after my birthday. So I think I had just turned 27. Yeah, maybe. Yes, that's right. But thankfully, but I had already had all my stuff packed. Like, I was ready to go. Like, I'm like ready because I was living at my parents' house. Yeah. So I was like ready to like move out, like spread my wings, and it was like skirt. So like when like life stopped, like for me, I was like, oh no, this is the biggest like deal of my, you know what I mean? Of my career, of my, like someone actually taking into consideration like body positivity and like loving yourself throughout movement and caring enough. So what they did was basically I moved in. My whole year was like, it was just for trade. And I was like, okay, like, what do you want me to do for this? You know, I got to teach classes, whatever. And they're like, no, like show up to photo shoots and stuff. And then like post like once a month. And I was like, I'm posting like 30 times a day. Like, you know what I mean? Because I just genuinely loved being there. And so it was incredible. And I ended up teaching like Move Fit and like, you know, we did a couple of other events and stuff there throughout that time that I was there. But it was epic. So that was my time. But again, I now went from the world, like doing all that stuff, to being in a room that was literally half the size of this room right now. Like, because it was a little under 400 square feet. So then I'm like seriously isolated. Yeah. Those studio apartments, they're very expensive, and it's for like that amount of room. But again, it was my own spot. This was a way that it was literally a mile from where I trained at my clients. So it was just like perfect. But hey guys, welcome to Love Your Body Podcast. Today's episode, we have Bailey Joe. And Bailey Joe, I want you to tell them just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get back into this whole conversation.
Yeah. My name is Bailey Joe. Mm-hmm. I am a Nashville native. Mm-hmm. Unicorns.
What part?
Mount Juliet.
Old
Hickory. A stop sign is the distinguisher there.
Okay. On the borough.
Yeah.
So
that's where all my family lives. Yeah. I work full-time for a mental health company in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I'm at a high school and middle school with all the little kiddos. And then I work at Fleet Feet Nashville and NutriShop in Bellevue.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I love that. And we were just kind of talking about like, you know, the world shutting down and all that stuff, and how it's been crazy, how time is just like flew. Because when did we, like, you don't have to remind me because I don't remember. Like, how did we connect? Like,
I think it was Instagram.
Okay.
But this now has to be like 6 years ago, dude.
Yeah. Like,
holy crap. It was like 28. Oh my God.
I was going to say, because I started my business in 2017. So it would
have
had.
Was it Instagram? I think it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think which to this day still much appreciate, but like, you're taller. And, you know, you were a woman that liked to lift. And I was trying to, like, explore that world and always thought you were so cool. Yeah. And that's when you had, like, the cropped Dani D shirts. And I, like, wore one to a race. And, like,
oh, yes. Okay, yes.
I was like, which is crazy. When I talk to people about you, I'm like, she blew up on social media and, like, totally deserves it. Because, like, from the start, you were making people feel good about things that we've been taught to, like, not feel good about.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
When you did that race, was that a Spartan race, or was that when you were just running? Okay.
That was like that was so many years ago. It was probably like a 5K. Okay. It was at Nissan Stadium. Yeah. I started Spartan racing this year. Okay. Which is crazy. Cool. Yeah. Also, how long this year has been. Yeah. Actually, but how short it's felt.
Yeah. So tell me, so you just started like training specifically for like Spartan races? So
I was long distance running when you and I initially met.
Yeah.
Wasn't working out. Mm-hmm. I would maybe like fib and tell people I'm like working out, but now it's just running and not stretching.
Yeah. We all did it at some point. Like,
in the end of 2019, I did a marathon. I had trained for it.
was it the Nashville or did you go somewhere? Okay.
And
how was that? Because I've only done the Nashville half.
Yeah.
But.
So that race is normally in April and it was in November because of, this was 2020, the end of November.
Okay.
Yeah. Or 21. See, it's all literally all blurred.
Yeah,
this is around when I found removed from running, but I did the marathon. I actually DNF'd, did not finish. A lot of people don't know about that. I for a long time was like embarrassed, which is stupid because I ran 24 miles.
Oh my gosh. You best believe I would be counting every single mile and would not even.
It was very frustrating and like strange because I trained for it and then, I did the race and I'm not a good runner. I tell people that all the time. I just like do it.
Yeah. Because you love to do it.
But I'm not a fast runner, never will be, but for fun. And I hated every minute of it.
Yeah.
I was in pain. I got cut at the last mile 3 like loop and they're like, oh, you DNF'd, which it actually ended up being an error on the race director and like that programming. So it wasn't entirely like my doing.
Yeah.
Like I would have actually made the time.
Okay.
But so I DNF'd and I remember I was walking down the hill like to the finish line with my late grandfather who is kind of like dad role for me. And I just remember walking and I made a post about this. I was like, I knew that was the last distance race I was going to do.
Yeah.
And it was strange and he's a runner and that's been a big piece of it. And I remember thinking, oh, this really sucks. And I didn't run for 2 years after that.
Yeah.
I was injured because I wasn't stretching. I wasn't lifting.
What was the injury?
I had a hamstring injury in my left leg.
Yeah.
And I have some foot stuff that's caused stuff with my right side of my body now, but I've gotten injured so much less now that I'm lifting and doing these things. And this year was like a breakthrough year in regards of figuring out what worked, which is crazy because it wasn't running.
Right. Well, and it's a mindset shift, right? Because eventually, I mean, with my stuff with strongman, like, I got injured and I had to really sit with myself. I mean, I tried for a full year really a full year after being injured and maybe a little bit more too, year and a half. But basically of like, I even did a strongman competition that people don't know about, like that we're really paid attention to at the end of that year of being injured. And I mean, so I had still qualified for nationals, all these things. But I mean, I'm doing back squats and I can't feel my whole left side with like 300 pounds on my back. Yeah. But I just was like, I can't give it up. I can't give it up. I can't give it up. And finally I was just, especially like COVID, like exacerbated it because now I can't really go anywhere. So I was walking 3 times a day, doing my PT. I was doing virtual sessions with clients. I was trying to move with them and stuff. And I couldn't even do, I'm trying to do like basic stuff for them because they didn't have equipment, right? Yeah. So I'm trying to do mountain climbers. I can't even do that. I couldn't do, there's so much that my body was like, nah. And my leg, it was this excruciating pain all the time and it wouldn't go away. So it was just one of those things where I had to literally like level with myself. Okay, moving to connect, move forward with that, something positive, have your own space, be able to breathe, reset, and then, be creative in other ways, right? And then it was like that next year that like that is when like the video went viral. And but I'm like, 40 pounds heavier than the time of that video. Yeah. And I remember like me and Logan and I was like, we ended up going to, Nissan Stadium to like record classes for Shape Magazine, right? Because I was like the Shape Squad instructor. So but like I'm like, bro, I got to get ready for that because I'm having a hard time breathing right now. Like I'm like, again, I just wasn't my best because I couldn't lift. I couldn't do things. I was just in so much pain all the time. So I'm literally walking, no really regards in food. And so I just felt not like myself. So I'm like, I'm about to be in front of all these people. Like, okay, I got to at least be able to get through my own workouts, right? And so it's just one of those, it had to be a mindset shift of like, okay, how do I do what I love, but find it just in a different way. You know what I mean? Because I love strongman so much, but also I was just really good at it, And I think that's probably like, you probably felt with like running, you felt successful. And you're like, you know what? It doesn't matter about like the time and stuff like that. And that's how like what I was with running. Like I did 9 half marathons and I was just, I'm slow. And people knew that. But I will say the last one I did was the half in Nashville. Rough. And it was because I was hungover. I accidentally ran it. And like, I didn't, dude.
Accidentally?
Yeah, I told the story so many times I forget that people don't know. But literally, what had happened was I told people. No, that's what happened because like Fleet Feet, Lululemon, they all like go Dani because I'm like I'm in the peak of strongman at this point. Now listen, I went to my client's wedding the night before and I drank and I was like I was just at 5K, so I was like I'll just do a fasted 5K the next day. So I meet up with my clients and they're all getting ready to run out and stuff. But I was like. They're like, yeah, this is the 5K. And I'm like, there's a lot of people here for the 5K.
10,000 people.
Yeah, but I just thought that we would break off. Like, I thought we'd all go together and then we would break off.
The 5K isn't even on.
It's not even on, but I didn't read the email. I didn't read the email because I hate...
You did it though.
But like
that's incredible.
But this is the thing though. Like shades, shorts that sucked. Like I mean, I had like my nice Ray-Bans on. I had Nobles on. Like
oh no.
Lift, yeah. Because I had like stayed the night somewhere the night before. So like I didn't like have the things that I needed and I hadn't like whatever packed the stuff. So literally the shorts that I wore too were like all Lululemon. So like my legs were bleeding by the end. But this is me.
Yeah.
This is me. People are looking at me like, hey, like, are you good? And I'm at like mile 10. I'm like, no. And I'm crying and my legs are bleeding. And I'm like, but I can't stop. So that's why like when you said that about the whole like DNF, like you best believe, because I would call the St. Jude director because I was running like for St. Jude. I was supposed to lead a stretch. Well, didn't make it to the stretch anyway, but I called her as I'm running. I'm like, hey, like, can somebody pick me up in a, like, I'm trying to get like first class treatment. Like, I'm like, can someone pick me up in a golf cart? And she's like, Dani, ain't nobody coming for you. And I was like, all right. Then I can't stop because if I stop moving, I will fall on the ground and they will have to drag me.
For sure.
And so, and then my other client, she had like a knee replacement, I believe, like a few months back. So this was like her first intro back into stuff. So we're gonna walk the 5K. She's like, you know, whatever. She walked that half marathon because I couldn't even get her a golf cart. So I was like, I'm so sorry. Like it was so bad. So anyway, but like I just don't know what I would have done if I would have made it to 24 miles and they're like, yeah, whatever. I would have been like, I'm finishing it. Like I'm running. Now like.
And like, it's funny because at the time, in all actuality, the people I knew that were there were like, we're surprised you didn't just go off track for 2 months. You knew where you were. And I was like, no, it felt like a chapter closing and it was like strange. I didn't do anything for a few months because I was injured. And then I kind of started lifting. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff on social media right now, at least that I've seen, but I'm also working with high schoolers. So I think my algorithms are off. Okay. About like how long it takes to notice anything or feel anything if you're just like, if you're not doing prep and those types of things, like building muscle. Right. And I was so confused at first because, you know, your weight like fluctuates. And then I was like, this is not going to work. I got to start running. Mm-hmm. But I had in college, we had some educational session thing of these people who run Spartan races. Yeah. And they were going through this and I'm like, I'm just here for a credit. Right. And also that looks terrifying and I never want to do that. Mm-hmm. But also there's absolutely no way I could ever do that because they're lifting boulders and crawling under barbed wire and maybe like in barbed wire and being crazy. Right. Like I could never. But also such a few percentage of people do them that I was like, yeah, no. So when I learned less than like 5% of the people in the world do a marathon, I was like, well, I could do a Spartan race. Right. But I didn't want to do a strongman or like any type of show. And I didn't want to do any more distance running. So I was like, this is the happy medium. Yeah. So I signed up for the Tampa 5K in the stadium. I was like, I don't want to get muddy. Right. I just want to give this a try.
I did the Fenway Stadium in Boston.
I took a video when I was under the tunnels and I was like, let it be known, this is the hardest thing I have ever done. Yes. I look like it's day and night between that race and like what I look like now, which is crazy. Cause at the time I was like, I'm in enough shape to do this. It was awful. Yeah. Like awful. Over 2,000 stairs. Yeah, girl. I had half-assed running. Yeah. So I was like, this is bad. I was having to put the sandbag down like halfway up the thing. But it was funny because even when I posted about how hard it was and how bad I did, everyone was like, that's amazing. And I was like, okay, that was pretty great. So, and you may know this in Spartan races, if you do 3 distances in a year, you're the trifecta. Yes. And all this, it's very, so I was like, it's
sprint and then super, right?
Sprint, super, and beast. So 5K, 10K, half marathon. Yeah. And I thought, well, I guess I have to do 2 more.
I love that. Yeah.
So I signed up for the Cincinnati race.
Okay.
I had like 8 weeks between the two to train, and I
Okay.
was like, I'm gonna try harder for this one because it's I want to keep up with the pack.
Right.
That was like notably, even in Spartan race world, the hardest race that happened the entire year. Not for the day one people, like Saturday. My race was Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday it monsooned, lightning
man.
stormed,
That sucks.
mudslides, like hail. It was insane.
Yeah.
Like I've never been outdoors in weather like that before. I was so muddy that like I couldn't run.
Yeah.
I had to like kind of lift my leg hard and shuffle.
Yeah.
A few of the mudslides we went up and down had thorn bushes. I did go into a thorn bush.
Oh my gosh.
It took me a very long time to finish it, but they
Yeah.
paused us for lightning.
Yeah.
And I got to the end at the slip wall, and a man got up to, and I fell 10 feet
Yeah.
at the very end.
Yep.
I just like walked through the finish, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. So yeah, so I did 2, and I did the one at Fort Campbell. And so that one was the second one I did because I did the other one when I was up in Vermont. And that was like 2016. So before I started my business, anything like that. So I just want to do something fun. Like I'm like inspired by all these women that are coming to this resort to change their
Yes.
life every day. I want to do something. I just ran my first half marathon just like on my own in Vermont. And so I was like, I want to do something. And so I go to the Boston one, and they're teaching you like how to climb the rope, all these things, whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Like let's do this. I do it, but like climbed every stadium like stair in Fenway.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so
look at
I jumped
stairs the
over.
same.
Yeah, like, and it was so cool though. Just iconic, just like how everything looked, but I definitely remember like getting some help because I was like, I can't climb over this wall. Like someone had to boost me, like, just trying to make friends and whatever. And I don't even remember what I placed, but I just remember looking at it being like, dang, like I did that. And then when I did the Fort Campbell one, it was because clients had wanted me to do it. And that was in like 2000, I guess 17 or 18. And yeah, before I did strongman or anything. And when I tell you, okay, again, wearing the wrong stuff because I didn't read the freaking emails. So I'm in Brooks tennis shoes, okay, Lululemon leggings. This is outside, okay, working about in the hot of like summer, and then a sports bra. I'm like, yeah, like love your body, but like I should have been in shorts anyway, and not in that. So I didn't realize we'd have to jump in like the creek. We'd have to swim in under the muddy water, and I'm not nature. I'm not hashtag not nature. No, like I don't like the outdoors that much, and so for me it was just kind of like, wow, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know, but I will say I remember seeing that wall, and I remember like kind of flashbacks from like Fenway.
The
and,
wall.
and I was like, you know what? Because it had rained as well, so I couldn't do the ropes. So I'd already had to do some burpees and stuff, and I was like, I'm not over this. I'm not doing burpees again. So I remember running, and I was like, I'm getting up this thing. I jump. I get up there. I'm holding on by like my arm. Okay. I was black and blue for like weeks after that. But I remember swinging my legs around, and then people were like clapping and stuff because I was like, yes, like I felt so successful because my friends that was with my clients were with me. I was like, y'all go ahead. Like y'all do this regularly. Like enjoy. Like don't wait up for me. I'm gonna go swim in the creek, whatever. So I just remember being like, I'm alone, but I looked around. I was like, let's go. And I just went for the wall. And so again, it was that moment, and I sat up there for a second, and they're like, you good? I'm like, yeah, just let me have this moment.
Oh
okay.
my gosh, yes.
But so it was really fulfilling.
It's a cool community, and I've now talked about this with like my friends and like my therapist and stuff about I was raised in a very small-minded household when it came to women. Like tiny is better and healthier.
Right.
Which we know isn't true now as adults. But when I went to that first race and walked in and saw those women, I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I can't tell if I want to be you or just like hug you or like get squatted by you.
Yeah.
Like
all the things.
And then I start Googling like some of these women that came in the higher ranks, and they're like in the top 100 CrossFitters in the world. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I did the last race in West Virginia, which I'd never been to West Virginia. It was a weird time.
Yes, it is a weird time. I went for a strongman comp.
And I did the half marathon, which actually ended up being 17 miles.
Okay.
And you were talking about like, let me have this moment. halfway through that race, which I struggled through. It was extremely hilly. It's one of the hilliest out of all of them. It was, almost 5,000 feet of elevation. You go up 2,500 in less than a mile and a half, which was painful. I puked at the top. Yeah. But I pulled trig and puked and then took my Coke Zero. I'd tucked in my backpack out. Yeah. And I laid on top of that mountain and cried and drank my Coke Zero. And this was like at mile 9. And my body battery is like 2. It's like, you should lay down. I'm like, well, that's unfortunate because I don't know when I'm going to be done.
Right.
And so you swim in the lake in that one. It was really fun.
Yeah.
But it was funny. My grandfather, his name is Tom, he passed away last August, and he was an ultra runner, did all these crazy things that a lot of people and myself think are crazy, but are really cool.
Yeah.
And I, now a year removed from a lot of that, have been able to finally open myself up to him and different things.
Yeah.
So it's funny, when I'm on this mountain, there's the community of Spartan races are very friendly. Anyone around you will help you or talk to you.
Lift you up over that wall.
This older man ended up running with me most of the race, and we've been together for 2 miles. He's like, "Oh, I'm Tom, by the way." And I was like, "Well, that's kind of cool. Whatever." But we actually ended up staying together until the end. At the rope. I can't climb the rope. That's not something I can do. But he did it, and I was like, "Thank you, bye."
Yeah.
So I thought about him a lot after, and then we got to the hotel after the race, and our pizza delivery driver's name was Tom. Our server at the restaurant's name was Tom, and I was like, this is weird. But hi.
Yeah.
I was very emotional after that race because he would have thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
My family and I have talked a lot about, he would have thought it was so cool because they didn't have all that when he was running.
Right.
But the community itself is so interesting. And like you said, I may have failed a few obstacles and done a few things, but by the last race I did, I finished things I couldn't do at first.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
Yeah.
Standing in a line of, no offense, men, and then finishing the plate pull before them and running away. And that plate was only 90 pounds.
Yep.
I thought, bye.
Right.
And seeing them inspired by strong women is cool. And it's not this cutthroat, you're threatening me thing.
Right.
The men that do appreciate it. And it's really cool.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love. No, I love that because, I think that's why movement just in itself at its base is so special because it gives you opportunity for moments like that you wouldn't have had just regularly, right? No. And by putting yourself out there, by stepping out of your comfort zone, and saying I am gonna set this goal and accomplish it, And I think so many times we're so quick to get in our own way.
Oh yeah.
And again, because someone may be listening and be like, "Oh, I could never do a sprint race." My client, one of my oldest clients that I've trained before, she, for her birthday, did a Spartan race. And I made sure that it was a sprint. She didn't go to a beast one, start out do a sprint,
oh my gosh,
and took her time with it. And she just did it. She wanted to be on her own and stuff. And I was like, that's amazing.
It's spiritual. I mean, I remember I tell people you don't actually know, and it sounds woo woo. And I'm like, oh, the Spartan race was spiritual. But oh my gosh, it was the most and if you do it with people, I think you have a different experience. I've done all 3 of mine by myself.
Right.
But I found people along the way who are doing it alone or whatever. And I'm, on a side of a mountain saying a literal mantra out loud. And I'm like, if anyone drove by or walked by right now, they'd be like, is she okay?
Right.
But it is the most intimate experience I've had with my mind and body connected of I'm walking down saying, okay, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. I can do hard things. And I'm just crying. And I'm like, I just want to sit down.
Right.
But it was so cool.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too, because you had said that you had been injured, right? And so it's one of those things where, our bodies are made to move. And so for example, with that half marathon, I could do that and get through it because I had been doing strength training. Right. And I really had not been focused on cardio really at all, but I could go do it. Now, the recovery time took a lot longer than what it would have if I would have actually trained, if I actually would have the right shoes, like it would have enhanced it. But I tell my girls all the time, I'm like, right now, if you wanted to go run a 5K, you could do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I may not suggest it because you got like knee issues or you got these things, or we can maybe move in different ways, But I was like, you can, because you are fit enough. Like we train a certain type of way that you are functionally strong, and they feel empowered enough to where like they could go do that, but have the choice that like they don't have to do it because they don't have to prove that to themselves, And I think that that's a very fine line too, right? Of like kind of taking the ego out of it and being like, I know I could. Like, I know. Like, right now, somebody's like, hey, can you lift this up? I'd be like, yes. But also being like, but I don't want to be in pain for 3 weeks or for a month or re-injure or whatever. So I have to like actively tell myself that to like chill. Like,
oh, yeah. It's like when I was injured, they're like, you could run. That would just be stupid. And I was like, well, I want to. But then, you take time off. That very first run back after like literally 2 years, I remember was incredible.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is not what I expected. But I didn't realize, which may be ignorant, of like how much endurance I was building by carrying heavy things and following a plan and like doing the things, because my brain told me, well, your body only works for this, or your body only works for this little tiny thing. And I was like, well, I can't re-add running, but I have to run because I'm going to run this race.
Right.
And I remember just feeling like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But then you start doing it and I was like, this is like the best run I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Was some of the best runs I had in my entire existence were in this past year. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because you were running for so long.
Yeah.
Running.
Right.
And I think I was actually just like in this weird lingo of trying to push my body to do things it did not want to do. Yeah. And I think I mentioned on that post, like as weird as it sounds, that injury is one of the better things to ever happen to me.
For sure.
Because it kind of forced me. I'm one of those people you got to force. So it's like,
I mean, and that's the thing too, that I just posted about that the other day about like overcoming adversity, of like that some of the, literally all of the best things that have happened to me have been because of a very traumatic thing that has happened that took me, like, it put me right back on my path. You know what I mean? And in the time, I'm like, oh, this is taking me off of it. But I wasn't meant to go down that road. You know what I mean? It was starting to get very, I don't want to say toxic with strongman, but it was very frustrating because everyone around me is doing steroids. I'm over here trying to like compete with like everybody like naturally, right? And so I'm just like, I know that I'm great and I know that I can win, but at what cost? You know what I mean? Is it gonna take? And you just felt defeated because I'm like, I'm running with all this heavy, stuff and like matching up with all the best of the best. But when it comes to lifting, I'm like, they're doing more. That female just did more than my coach can do. So like, what am I supposed to do?
That's mess with your psyche in a way of like, you're trying to make something work that's never meant for you.
Right. And so that's where,
so hard.
Yeah. And so I remember just like sitting on the floor, like bawling my eyes out at my last nationals.
Well, you grieve it.
And cause I was just like, I can't like, and so that happened. Right. And that should have been the moment that I should have realized like, okay, this is when I need to stop. But I was like, no, I'm going to go harder. So what I did was then for the next 2 months, I prepped for the next strongman competition, which was January 2020. And I go to it, and something in my mind told me, don't pick up those handles. Because I even said, hey, those look really low. And they're like, yeah, this is what we got. And I was like, I don't think I should lift those up. And they're like, well, whatever you want to do if you want to win. And I was like, and so all I could think about was so close-minded, like, you got to get to nationals, versus, no, take the 0. You still would have placed second and you still would have qualified for nationals, but without the injury. So I was like, nope, I got to do it. And me and only the other girl could lift the 400-pound farmer carry and go, and for 60 feet. And I mean, it was a struggle, but I did it. And then I went to the deadlift and did 405 for 4. But literally after that, I was like, something's not right. And then that's when I realized, like, okay, something happened, but I finished it, whatever. But woke up the next day, like, hunched over, couldn't even barely move. And I was just like, yeah. Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Love Your Body podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. For anyone who's wanting one-on-one training, you can either find me at my LYB gym. You can do online programming with me. I have a challenge going on right now called the Get Your Movement In Challenge, where we're doing 10 push-ups a day. So setting those goals, setting those intentions. So if you're interested in ever joining one of those or getting you some fight energy booster, please feel free to reach out, or you can email me at danny@dannydfitness.com. Oh, and we're always looking for sponsors. So if you want to be a part of this growing podcast, I believe we're in the top 10% of all podcasts being shown right now. So make sure to jump on it, and we'd love to have you.
My name is Bailey Jo Carter. I am super happy to be on your podcast. It's great. You can find me either at Fleet Feet Nashville. We have 6 stores now, a new fancy store in Cool Springs, whoop, whoop, next to Trader Joe's. And I also am normally at NutriShop Bellevue off of Highway 70 in Nashville. And we have new ownership, fun new staff, lots of new things, and hopefully are carrying Fight soon. Yay.
Let's go.
That'd be super cool. And I think my Instagram is bewell.bjo. It changes sometimes. Can't ever keep the same thing. But yeah, super excited to be here.
But yeah, so like I was saying about kind of knowing that intuition and everything, that's what I wanted to kind of segue into talking with you about. Like, I know that you are working in like the mental health field and everything like that. So, you know, you're working with young kids, right? So middle school and high school?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that
It's
like,
crazy.
were you just doing like telehealth before?
So, out of college, I was working at a rehab. And then most of my experiences with hospital setting, but
Okay.
I actually did individual therapy with all ages.
Okay.
And I'm very thankful for that experience, even though it didn't pan out the way I would have preferred. But I did get to work with kids. I asked to, and I never worked with kids. I've always really liked kids, but those kids I had were like the best clients ever. You know, we're playing Jenga, playing games and talking, and like they kind of just really want someone to listen to them as a
Right.
friend. And the advice and like support comes with it. But I was specifically looking for a job working with kids after leaving that job because I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was like, a school setting could be fun.
Okay.
So I've been at a high school and middle school, and they're babies.
Yeah.
They're so sweet.
How
It's
does
so
how does
cute.
it work? Like, are you, cause I'm trying to just go back to like, okay. Okay.
Goodbye.
You're doing great, and also I love his voice. I really do.
Good.
Like even with her like being a little bit far away and like kind
It's
of tilted
perfect.
the wrong way, it sounds great.
Even though it's completely incorrect.
But we still make it
Makes you
work.
feel any better? Listen, you though, you gotta stop with the crackhead jumping around stuff. You can jump around, but jump around like this.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It's not gonna
Mouth
happen.
Still, everything else can move.
Okay. Hello. I'm very expressive.
And it sounds great whenever you're
crackhead
far away, but like either be far or be close.
Be far or be
I
close.
gotta commit to one way.
You guys are doing great.
Oh gosh. But yeah, so like I'm looking back at my high school experience and stuff. So
gosh.
we only had like guidance counselors. So like
We didn't even have that.
Like, are you access to?
Yeah. So they have counselors, they have guidance counselors, and
Yeah.
then they have like school social workers. I'm hired through an agency that's in the school through a grant. So
That's
anyone
cool.
can see me,
Okay.
which is great. So I do more like therapy.
Yeah.
The guidance counselors do a lot of academic, behavioral, tardy, like those types of
Yes.
things. They're not like therapists.
Right.
Usually, at least in Tennessee with a lack of people that want to do that job. It's a lot of, it's hard. Like I am actually hoping to have like a career change soon, which is very weird. But I think like in a post-COVID world, I didn't expect things to be this way. You know, I mentioned to a person earlier today at school, I have 12 kids on my caseload and 9 of them have lost a parent since 2020 and they're less than 18 years old. And it's kind of like, there's all these questions of why do kids do this? Why do kids do that? Why did this kid cause this to happen? And I'm like, I see it.
Yeah.
But I think it's really hard right now for adults to like, they don't relate to kids now. A lot of my kids spent a year or more in virtual school.
Yeah.
We have no social skills.
Yeah.
We have no emphasis on physical health. You know, my kids and gyms sometimes are doing nothing. But it's also because there's so much other stuff going on related to being okay and like having a calm body.
Right.
And it's just very foreign. Like, I expected to only be doing therapy. I've never worked in a school. But the last 2 days I've had have been handling a crisis with a kid that isn't even mine and then dealing with a fight. So it's like...
Yeah.
Oh, that's out the window. And I kind of want to move into this space of being able to help people without having to sacrifice we call it vicarious trauma, this like secondary trauma we get of hearing these hard things and like in the midst of it with them, like being in it with them.
Yeah.
And I just want to do something fun and have this time. So when I come back to this field, I can be well. And the kids get it. They get it more than adults do of like, yeah, you're leaving me, abandonment stuff, but like they will understand one day. And I think that's the part that makes me feel okay about doing something for me.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for so long it was that taboo, like that taboo topic that what you're saying of like, of putting yourself first, right? And putting your mental health first. Like it was kind of like okay. Or like it was like an excuse or something, right? Like you're just, I don't know, trying to avoid something. And I have really had to sit in that because I, went to the extreme and, have now am dealing with the health stuff from that. Yeah. But it was to be everything to everyone, to help so many people, to do all these things when it was just like, I didn't take any time to put myself first. And then when I did, it wasn't even enough time to like grasp it. Does that make sense? Like I was just going through the motions and, and I don't know, it just, things were going so fast. So now something that like my therapist said, and I've mentioned it before a little bit, previous podcasts, is that like, I say to myself, I have all the time I need. And that really helps me because it's like, if I don't say that, man, it's just rushing and rushing and rushing. And then sometimes I'll be like, bruh, it's 12. It's okay. You have the whole rest of the day. Yeah. But for some reason, it's like that internal clock, like pulling me. And it's like, no, like sit with it. Like, it's okay. And take yourself. And like, instead of answering my phone first in the morning, taking a minute to just like laugh about something or, get up and turn a podcast on or turn, some music on or something and be like, okay, put myself first for a moment. Now let's get to it.
Oh yeah. I think I've heard on a previous podcast talking about similar stuff of like, it's not your fault you feel that way, which is comforting because you're like, I don't know if you feel this way. Sometimes I feel crazy because I'm like, is everyone else going this fast at everything? Yeah. But I also was diagnosed with ADHD this year. So that's been like a also comforting thing of like, no, you're not cuckoo or like speed racer, but like it's also not your fault because technologically, as beautiful as technology is this, how fast can we make something better, change something to be newer? Yeah. Mindset and like human instant gratification is at an all-time high. Yep. And the people that do slow down and rest or, people that don't want kids or people that want quiet or to live in a little cabin in the middle of nowhere are like frowned upon. Yeah. They look like they're what crazy. Do you mean you're not giving into this hustle culture? Right. And like, I think there's a balance and I teeter on having it and not having it. Yes. But I think, and my favorite quote, at least this past year, is like, nothing changes if nothing changes. And instead of halting what's changing or, the change is rest or I don't really want to rest. Well, that's too bad. Right. You have to. Sorry. Yeah. Easing into that is taboo still. It's better, but.
Well, yeah.
I just want to ask a question.
Yeah. Go ahead, ask the question. You're good.
It's about the kids, so it's kind of a turn if you would.
Oh, okay. No, real quick, I was just going to say that like my ass got put down. Like I had to like sit because I had pushed myself to the brink. And it was one of those things where it was like like, y'all, like, we got to streamline something. Like, I have to get an assistant. Like, I have to do I needed some help, some support, you know? But it was almost like I was so far down in it that I could only give and give and give and give. And then finally I was like, no, I have to do something for myself.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of times that's been movement. That's my escape and that's my whatever. But it was like, that wasn't even enough at that point.
Oh, that's so hard.
You know?
When that's your thing.
Yeah.
And like, even my partner now is like, I don't get that because that's not my thing. Like,
Yeah.
but if my thing was something I couldn't do,
Yeah.
building a whole new coping skill is like, that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So it's like a building process and figuring out what works and doesn't work when you can't move.
Well,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Well, and you have to find the beauty in things too, right? Because that was the thing. And like other things, like I really don't care to walk. That's why I always went for runs because I don't like
Yes.
walking. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to try to find the beauty in this and do that, right? And appreciate my body for how it moves and appreciate it for doing, you know, just something, right? And with everything after the prep and stuff and like now my eye issues, it's one of those things of like, you know, I went to Universal and I took everything in, you know, I took that vacation that I've been wanting to go on for like 7 years. And it was, but like I literally looked around and was like, take it all in, like take in the ferry boat, take in the castle, take it like, and like I can see everything and just enjoy and like live in that moment and the sun on my face. And like, and that was so special. Because it does get me down about stuff, like if it gets worse or whatever. And, you know, and it was one of those things where like you don't realize how special something is until it gets taken away from you.
Yeah.
So I really try to look out even outside of that and appreciate things before they get bad. You know what I mean now? And not let them get to that point also too by running myself into the ground and taking a minute to be like, you know what? It's okay. Like if you don't get the plans done today, you'll get them done tomorrow. Or if like you have to reschedule the podcast, like then we'll reschedule the podcast or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be so like set in stone with every little thing. And that's like my perfectionism that had come out and was exacerbated from like the prep and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know? Go ahead.
So I was just going to ask about from your expert opinion, you were talking about how the parents don't relate to the kids. I was wondering like some of those gaps.
Oh, yeah.
If kids are going through the parents, like if a parent's listening, they're like, what are you talking to the kid about that they're sending to school that they don't get type thing?
Well, it actually, unfortunately, it goes into the social media stuff right now. That's a big thing. You know, a lot of the girls I see, a lot of the social media stuff, and parents just we don't relate to the generation now because we have no way to. We have no experience with it prior, so it's new. The parents that just keep trying, though, I think I literally said to my partner the other day, I was like, I think after just like a crazy hard day, I said, if we have kids that have mental health problems, which is pretty common, that might happen.
Yeah.
Like, can we not give up on them? And she's like, yeah, of course. Like that may have been a little silly to even think you wouldn't. But like, as long as they have, it's proven statistically, if kids have one adult they can trust, their chances of suicide drop by like 50%. One adult.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
And it's a very common thing. And I think a lot of people, when they think of suicide, which is also a weird taboo topic for people, which I validate because it can be uncomfortable if you're not around it. I exist in it a lot with what I do and I'm pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Kids do this. And, you know, it's because they perceive that people don't care or people don't care about them.
Right.
They have it really hard now. And, you know, kids missed a lot of sports. Kids missed a lot of clubs, these really important things we did get to have.
Right.
And I think to expect it to be like it was is crazy.
Setting up for failure, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, and also
Yeah.
too, I think what a lot of people just want, and a lot of kids especially, is like validation, right?
And that's when they say they just want attention. I'm like,
no, like
they want attention in a way of just like, I'm here, I can hold space.
Yes.
You know, like, yes, they do want that.
Right.
That's not the
Yeah, exactly. And like, and my whole thing too is, especially, I feel like even just the validation of like, you're not crazy
Yep.
for feeling this way, or you're not crazy for, whatever, or just even just say that, to have that, like that side, like little chime in so that they can think about that and be like, oh, that's right. Like Billy Joe, like was there for me and said that like, this is completely, or whatever. Because again, like I know everybody wants to look like they're different or be like individual or whatever, but on a spectrum, you want to be a part of a community. Like you want to feel a part of something. And so when you constantly feel like you're outside of that, you know what I mean? It's like you're either going to go to the extreme and be really outside of it, or you're going to fight to keep getting back in it. And if you don't have a safe person or someone you can trust to like allow that, it's really hard.
And we didn't have things like that in my school. I know they had them in some of the other schools, limited-ish, but like right now I have a middle schooler and she's like a tall girl. Like she's a big girl compared to every other kid. And, she came in my office. She's like, I'm not eating. I'm getting bullied for what I look like and how big I am. And I was like, I look like you when I was your age. And she was like, really? Like, and she said, well, you're pretty. And I was like, well, you're pretty.
Right.
And her mom is really tall. Dad is really tall. And I just remember thinking, like, you're exactly how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And the kids that are bullying you are exactly who they're supposed to be. There's just all these crazy standards that we even give to ourselves.
Right.
And I remember I see a lot of me and some of them that talk about these things. Cause like I was always the tallest kid.
Yeah.
I'm 6 foot now, which for women is tall.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
always
I didn't realize
felt
how tall
big.
you were when we took
Yeah.
that picture. I was like,
I always
love it.
have felt like this like bigger person, and in school was always this like bigger kid. And now I'm like, I felt like crap about myself, but in reality, it was very unique and different, but it was exactly how it was supposed to be.
Yeah. See, I wanted to be taller. Like I
Yeah.
was told, like
And I
projection.
wanted to be shorter.
See, yeah, like it's always that thing, and
Which is because someone at one point convinced you that was better.
yes, and that's the thing is like, yeah, I hate that.
I'm looking for something. That's why I'm.
Oh yeah, you're good. I hate that the girls are going through that. And that's why I've tried to wrap my brain around, whether it's a program, it's somehow to get into the school system, because I would love to have these talks and have these safe spaces to be like, hey, like it is okay. And like what you're feeling is valid. And like, cause it is. And to avoid the situation of like that girls, to be like, oh, well, girls are just going to compare to each other. No, it's on a whole different level.
Yeah.
Because I've witnessed in, one of the very few funerals I've gone to was a young girl who was 12 years old. And it was because of the bullying and the filters and all the things. And that's why I hate, I can't stand like Snapchat and things like that or whatever, because of how it's being used. And it was just like, she could never see herself as beautiful. And this girl was, I mean, not that it matters, but like, again, by beauty standards, like she fit the criteria, right? But it's still, there was something that maybe like one thing that someone thought was not a good flaw, or it was a flaw, that like they turned it and made it that main thing, right? And I think that this whole idea that we have to be perfect and we have to look at the filter. If we don't look like the picture we posted and then we see ourselves, then we're dealing with body dysmorphia. And so there's so many different layers to it. And there needs to be support in the school system for that, So I love that even now, like, they even have this option of therapy and have that on site.
Well, in Tennessee, if you're 16, and this is not me saying you should not have, a guardian or someone you trust in the house involved, but when you're 16, you can see someone without needing a parent.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's frowned upon, sometimes even within the school, of not informing them, but it's also like, it might save their life. In a way. And I don't like to look at myself like that, but in reality, like I wish that I would have had even an option.
Right.
And I didn't. And I think it's a lot of, at least what I notice in the schools is we know that these kids are, active with other kids and all these things. We know all those things are happening, but we just act surprised when certain things happen.
Yeah.
Like I'm having to educate staff on what to do when a girl is on her period and things like that, which is also a taboo thing.
Yeah.
And in reality, like,
Yeah.
it is not talked about the way it should be. I had
Yes.
a teacher, he's like, why did it take her so long to come to class? And I was like,
Bruh.
dude, you're not a girl. Like, I just said, I don't know, and gave the kid, I'm like, what do you mean?
So literally, like, not to be like TMI, but I'm going to do it because we're talking about this. Like, I haven't had a cycle. I'm not talking about being naked right now. Okay. It's something different. I talk about being naked a lot anyway, because I just love it.
hate clothes.
But yes, thank you.
See?
No. So I didn't have a cycle for the past 2 years. Right. And it just kept getting put off because people were like, oh, it's the prep, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's whatever. And I was like, well, at some point, if I want to have a child, we got to kind of like see what's going on. Like, this has to change. This at some point has to change. So I have a coach now that listens to me. I have a hormone specialist who came on here, and she's fantastic. And within 13 weeks of working with them, after 2 years, I now have a cycle. And like, she literally, I sent her a message and she was like, hell yeah. I was like, let's go. But it was, right. But literally it was one of those things where like, people, even when I was at Thanksgiving, cause like I was on my cycle, I was kind of like hiding, like, cause I haven't had tampons, in forever. Yeah. And so I was kind of like hiding, and then I was like, fuck this. I was like, and so I was just like open about it. And I'm like, I'm so excited. And again, it was just like silly for some people, but I'm like, this means that my body is healthy, and maybe that will restore my sight back eventually. Or like, there's so many bigger things that, like, also too, I'll say this real quick, is like, I got really mean comments about, on social media about like my bumps and stuff. Right. And tons. And it was a thing from like Facebook Reels of like, oh, whatever. And literally the reason I have those was because my liver was elevated and my good cholesterol was down. So literally, like, stuff was starting to shut down and got an infection, all these things, whatever. So like, you literally comment because it aesthetically didn't look pleasing to you. And also, like, I didn't care, but I was also just like, wow, thank you. Like, I think I look great. But like, you honed in on the one thing that you could say about me, because you couldn't say that I was the biggest in the room anymore, right? Or you couldn't say that I was this, whatever. So it's like, people want to exacerbate that. And it's like, bro, like, I actually was like that was as a condition. And even if it wouldn't have been, even if that was just like me, there's no need for this.
Yeah, and all of that's so intertwined, like the hormone. One good thing I think I learned from the pandemic was I didn't know a single thing about gut health or like hormone imbalance type symptoms until COVID and TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok is like beautiful and cursed at the same time.
Yes.
A lot of technology advances and those things are. But like, I've gotten good things and bad things from it. And that's one of those things where like, the more I had never even heard of it. I'm all down to read about something I've never heard about,
right,
even if I don't end up liking it.
Yeah.
But I learned like about leaky gut, and I went and realized I was like so vitamin deficient. Like, why am I so tired all the time?
Yes.
I thought, oh, it's probably related to a mental health thing, which like it is, because it's all intertwined.
Yes.
And like, I tell kids that all the time of like, number one, your brain is still developing. So for adults to be confused about certain behaviors is fascinating to me, because kids have actually no capacity to control it.
Right.
But also like hormones and those things, and like making it normal to talk about.
Yeah.
Of like puberty and all these things.
Right.
I don't even remember. This is probably one of those things we said, like, I trauma blacked out, I guess, that time of my life. But it's like, I wish we could have just talked about it and how hard it was.
There should have been a class. Well, so there's a sex ed class.
I don't think I ever took that.
So, okay, I missed it. So I missed the day. So
they never filled her in.
That explains a lot. But like, no, but like, I missed the day. And like, and life would have been changed. No. And I just remember them being like, yeah, we had this talk, whatever. But because I transferred from Christian school to public school in seventh grade. So like, I didn't know anything. You know what I mean?
Private
like
school the whole time, so I still didn't.
Yeah.
First day.
Yeah. But nobody gave me like that talk or this things. And all my friends around me were getting their cycle, and like I didn't. And so like, wow, something's wrong with me. So it's like all these times where you can internalize that of like, You know, but and there's a picture where all the girls, like how you're talking about the tallest thing, you know, like the taller thing of this. I still can remember it vividly. It's like 6 of my friends. They're all like 5'2", 5'3", whatever. And then there's me, and I'm like, and I'm even hunched down. I still am taller than them. But see, I wasn't an athlete, so it wasn't okay because I just danced, and that wasn't considered athletic. So even though I was dancing literally 6 hours every night, I took every class possible. I was on dance team at school, competitively dancing, like all these things, but it still wasn't seen as, you know what I mean? So it was just like these boxes that everyone kept putting in. It was just like, I don't feel like I'm like wrong. Like I love the way I am, but it made me quiet myself and go into that, like that introvertedness throughout high school or whatever. And that's where alcohol came into place. And that made me feel, because if I can't see my face and I'm just like partying, like, you know, like.
I mean, yeah, I wanted to touch on that too, because you mentioned that.
I just want to throw out there, we got like a hard 5 minute.
Okay.
So whatever you want to.
Yeah.
As long as it's a hard 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tell us, because have you been sober, right? For
my 2 years not drinking is not the 10th, which is bonkers.
Oh
Time
my gosh.
flew.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But a lot of the memory stuff I've learned comes from that. I blacked out a lot. Like I talk to other people. They're like, yeah, you know, I've blacked out 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, oh no. Because I can't tell you how many times. That was my thing. And I realized like it was all so intertwined. And it doesn't make my life better in any way. I, you know, use recreational things that are legal here, but I don't claim to be like in recovery. But no, I've learned so much about like the gut stuff and liver stuff. And I'm like, my life's not any better with it. And people are like, are you ever going to again? I'm like, no.
Right.
But also now I get so bothered by that culture, which is interesting because I actively choose not to participate in it.
Right.
But some of the culture around it I think is unfair, and puts us in positions where we feel like we're supposed to do a lot of things to numb out. And we just don't feel.
Yeah. Well, because things are so bad, right? Things are the world's crashing around us. So we have to wear. So, like, for example, with you said that you saw my post or whatever the other day, I could have like went and gone and like binge ate or under ate or gone and drank, or there's so many things I could have done, right? What I do, smashed a bunch of shit in my backyard.
And it felt amazing.
And it was great.
That's how I feel after like a good workout, when you're just like.
And it was just a different level, a different thing for me because I work out all the time. So I was like, I just need something. I
just need a beat
extra. And yes, and like. I mean, yeah, like, and so it was so beautiful because it was just like a moment.
Think it's crazy you'd find beauty in it, but you're like, it was the most beautiful thing ever.
And that's why I was like, take it how you want. Take it like however you want to view it.
Post.
And if you, thank you. And if you think that it's, you know, again, oh, just another female being crazy, like, then maybe I am. You know what I mean? Maybe I am crazy. But that's the thing is I think we all are. And so like, it's like own it and just like do what makes your life feel fulfilled and feel balanced. And that for me was balance. And that's what I like. That's why I'm that season of time, because I'm over the whole trying to, you know, for me, put these harsh timelines or these harsh things or be so particular or whatever when like it is okay. Like you have set yourself up for success by just being you and like by focusing on your health, mental, physical, spiritual, everything. And that is what's beautiful. And like, that's what I want to tell like these young girls and these things that like, it is okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you excited for 2024?
Girl, I'm like, I mean, we in it. Like we're in it. Yes, I'm excited. There's a lot of things and a lot of like, possibilities and stuff, and I just want, you know, I'm big on manifesting. I think you know that. And pretty much like, because I think like even when we beginning of conversation with Connect, I manifested that I would live for free in Nashville. I kept saying it over and over again. People were like, Dani, like
crazy ideas.
But people were like, Dani, like you need to get a house. You need to get a house. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it because I don't think I'm gonna be in Franklin for that much longer. You know, and that's why I was training at the time. Then I ended up training in Nashville. Like, and so it's just one of those things where it's like, trust in your gut, like trust and believe that if you work hard enough, like people will see that. And also too, with the whole social media thing, like, you know, and the young girls and stuff, I again, likes don't matter. Views don't matter. Something that you do or say will get to the right person that it needs to. And that should be enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about like viewing people differently because of their followers or because of this or treating them or whatever. Like, treat them as the person that they are. And like, that is something that I want them to know, you know?
Yeah.
Like, your self-worth is not identified by your social media platform.
And people with millions of followers are not the happiest.
Correct.
It's like,
yeah, or the healthiest, you know? And so it's like, support the people who, you know, are there that actually want the best for you versus just what's cool and what you think it should be like, you know? But anyway, so anything you want to leave, you know, like anyone with today that whether it's mental health advice or just, you know, physical with your journey and how you're getting into, you know, like in everything.
I don't know what 2024 is going to look like.
Yeah.
Which
you
is
moved
kind
into
of
a new
exciting.
space. You moved it, yeah.
I like have a opportunity to settle and like feel calm, and it's very strange, but I don't know. I think I halted change a lot in the past, and now I'm like easing into transitions.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm transitioning. That's very weird. Instead of trying to stop certain parts of it, we're just like going with the flow. I think I would just say, be open-minded, which I think I was more closed-minded pre-pandemic and, you know, that first year than I expected to be. Like, try new things.
Yeah.
Have no plans.
Yeah.
It's freeing, but like really scary.
For
but
sure.
I've eased into doing things really scared.
Yeah.
You know, like crawling through mud and stuff. I'm like, I'm having sensory overload, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, just do it scared.
Yeah.
Like, I'm scared. Do it.
Because you'll never know. Because if you don't, you know the outcome. Like, you know what I mean?
And you'll wish at some point you would have done it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be 100 and be like, well, I wish I would have done that. And you have no chance to do it.
100%. I love that so much. And I think that it is a season of that time of just taking charge of your life and whatever that looks like and finding that, you know, excitement again. I think that's what a lot of people need to look forward to. So that's awesome, girl. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm excited to see all the amazing things you do.
You too.
Thanks. Until next time.